are, and we'll act on them later in our council meeting, but we have 4 wood plank bleachers, a sweeper attachment for a walker mower, decorative deer, Lithuanian lighting, relight, volumetric lighting assemblies. That's from our broadband. If anybody'd like to make comment concerning these items to be disposed of or surplus, to come forward at this time. Seeing no public comment, we will close this portion of our meeting and we will start here in just a couple minutes with our regular session. Thank you. You young men that are here for scouting purposes, if we could have you sign up on that table in the middle of the room. We'd like to get you on public record so everybody knows you're here, all right? Thank you.
It's a thought that counts.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But now I can't get them open today. What's going on? Oh, here. Yeah, right? See those? Yeah, the bookmarks are way easier.
This could be interpreted as breaking the sunshine laws.
Oh.
And I'm just kidding. You guys ready? Yeah. I should. Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, good.
No, unless you're talking about Barbara's cats or something like that. Okay, ready, Terry-Lynn? Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to our City Council meeting this night on the March 13, 2018. It looks like a great crowd here tonight. Our agenda has been posted on the state website and in other places throughout the city as required by state law. And we will follow this agenda as outlined. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead you in. It will be followed by a prayer from Councilman Taylor, and then I will conduct the roll call. If everybody please stand.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before thee this night in the capacity of citizens and a city council, we are grateful for the opportunity that we have to come and to conduct the business of the city. And we would ask that thou would guide our thoughts and our actions this evening, to be able to do those things that would be in the best interest of the citizens and the businesses and those who live and enjoy the way of life here in American Fork. We are grateful for all that has been sacrificed and given for us to enjoy the freedoms that we do in this wonderful country. We ask that thou would watch over and bless those who protect those freedoms and who look after those needs before their own. We are very grateful, Heavenly Father, for our staff and for the time and effort that goes into running this city and for the caring ways that they go about their duties. We ask, Father in heaven, that this night we might have civil discourse, that we might be able to listen with great intent to one another and to the items that we go over, that we might act in a manner that would be pleasing unto thee and be for the best benefit of our city. We are very appreciative of all that thou hast been given and recognize thy hand here in this great city and in our lives, and we seek thy guidance now and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, and now we'll conduct the roll call. Councilmember Christiansen?
Here.
Councilmember Shelton? Here. Councilmember Barnes?
Here.
Councilmember Carroll?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor? Here. All right, we have a full staff or a full quorum, and we can conduct the business of the city. We will begin with a 20-minute public comment period. We'd ask anybody that is here that would like to address the city council, the key staff, or in any way, to come forward at this time. If you would please state your name in the microphone so we can have that on public record.
All right, it's good to be here. My name's Anadine Marshall. I am the pantry manager for Tabitha's Way Local Food Pantry, located in American Fork, and it's my pleasure to address you. Thank you, Mayor Frost and American Fork City Council members. So I've passed out a sheet, and I just want to go through it with you, just to give you a report for our 2017 and just the kind of activity that we've been having over there at Tabitha's Way Local Food Pantry. So we are a local food pantry that supplies free groceries to people who are hungry or food insecure up to 2 times a month. And we serve all of North Utah County. We've had an incredible year last year. We opened in July 27th, 2016, and so it's exciting to be able to report this, the year that we've had. We have provided food assistance from this location to the North Utah County residents, to over 9,715 client shoppers, and they get food there. There are, within those client shoppers, there are 28,247 family members in Utah County that were assisted. Of that number, over 57% of those are children, which was a little surprising for us even to see that over 50% are children. We distribute millions of pounds of food to approximately 2.5 million meals to those in need, so if we break those down. In the year, we did over 300 Thanksgiving dinners, 200 ham dinners at Christmas, which had been supplied by our local fresh market in American Fork. 758 stuffed backpacks to the Alpine School District, and many of those backpacks had been supplied by our Eagle Scouts and church service organizations and lots of other groups that had put these backpacks together. Thousands of individuals that come into the pantry just need a hug, and they need someone to listen. And so we do lots of hugging, we do lots of listening. I always tell people that the tool is food, but the product really is love. And it has been an amazing experience to be able to see lives changed. We do reviews every 3 to 6 months after the initial intake, and we follow up with our clients to see how they're doing, if their job is, if they found that job. We also have relationships with the DI and their job training program with other agencies in Utah County, and we can connect them to those programs that will help them. In regards to our volunteers, it's just been awesome to be part of that group of individuals who just have such a desire to serve their community. We calculated over 17,000 volunteer hours have been donated to the pantry, and that's not including all the thousands of hours from the Scouting for Food drive, which we have this Saturday, and all of that food will be coming to Tabitha's Way in the North Utah County. So it's exciting. We have postal carrier drives. We have many drives that that are statewide. Thousands of hours are also donated by our local businesses, and so we have many American Fork businesses that come to the pantry to create good company culture and to give their time and also donate. If I ask for ramen, I know I'm going to get lots and lots of ramen and toilet paper especially, so that's really exciting, and they really are so responsive. Local citizens and groups are very generous with their donations. One of the cutest things is when we get families that will call and say, what is it that you need? And then later that day, we have this cute family with the mom and children come in with their little sacks, and they can donate to the food pantry. And we really believe that this is creating an excellent community environment where people will know that community cares, and they'll know how they can donate and help and assist in their community. So each month we have about 800 client shoppers, which is visits. About 2,500 individuals come to the pantry, receive food each month from the pantry. What's interesting is that you'll see the breakdown in here. 22% of our clients are from American Fork. And so that's right under Pleasant Grove, which is 25%. But those two are the cities that we are serving most right now. Just a little client story. We have a client who came into the pantry, and she was very ill. She had just discovered that she had type 1 diabetes, and her son had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Her husband has a good job. He makes $50,000 a year, and she said that would be fine if her insulin didn't cost $2,500 a month. And so many of our clients have a lot of difficulty paying for their medical costs, or they're on long-term disability, they're on limited income. We serve a lot of people with addiction issues. Not a big percentage of our clientele are homeless, but we do have homeless that will come in or who are sleeping on couches and just trying to find a place, especially with the cost of housing right now. We're finding a lot of people are being kicked out of their apartments, or they just cannot afford the cost of housing that is going on right now. But I know I've taken a lot of time, but I just want to thank you so much for your support. Mayor Frost, you've been excellent. Thank you for the wonderful food drive you guys held with the city. The AF City has been just an amazing place to house our pantry. And we actually are expanding. We'll be taking over even a larger part of that Covenant Communications building now, and that'll be wonderful to open up for bigger groups to come in and more loving and more serving. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I just say this, and I know there might be others, we feel it's a privilege that you're in American Fork, And this is staggering to understand, and who would have known that before you came, of the incredible need. And it makes me wonder who was serving that need prior to Tabitha's Way. And so you have been a model, and I've seen that Tabitha's Way has been recognized. I know you don't seek for it, but you're a great member of our community and throughout this whole chamber, even the Lehigh Chamber in Linden. And so we just feel it's a privilege to have you here in American Fork, and we'll do anything we can to support you. So you know that. Thank you.
Real quick, Mayor, it's just a privilege to see. I think it was Wendy that I met with before it was all coming in and kind of rolling out her vision plan, and it was awesome to see her vision kind of come to fruition with many volunteers and people that make it possible. Question I have is, when I met with her, she talked about the textile bins and things of that nature. Is that still running?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So for those who don't know, the textile bins are to help support operation costs. Wendy, when she wanted to start feeding Utah County, didn't have a lot of retirement money like our other founders do up here in the north. And so she had to find a way to fund the pantry. And so she started the recycling business. And so that does fund the pantry, along with donations, money donations, that funds a lot of the South Pantry, and it does help cover some of the costs that we have up in the north too. So yeah, so if you encourage people to donate their textiles to those donation bins, that indirectly supports feeding the people in our community. So
Mayor, Council, my name is Diego Carroll. I'm a resident here, and I've actually written down my comments so I can go as fast as possible here. But I'm here to speak about the proposed changes to the form-based code for the transit-oriented development by the Front Runner Station. First, let me say that I support the city's efforts to build a transit-oriented development. Through my comments, I hope to provide some insights that you might not have considered yet. First, I would like to introduce some of my background to provide some context about my comments. Then I'd like to just share a couple quick concerns and some actions that I would recommend. As some of you know, I've been working in engineering and community development for the last 19 years. I hold a BS and MS in civil engineering with an emphasis in transportation planning from BYU. After earning my professional license and my MBA from BYU, I actually worked in development for a while, developing some of these walkable neighborhoods, often called TOD, mixed-use centers, traditional neighborhoods, and new urban developments. For most of my career, I've focused on the intersection between transportation and land use. Transportation doesn't just mean cars. It also includes active transportation, including walking and biking. Based on those qualifications, I'm currently working for UTA, UDOT, WFRC, and MAG as the project manager for the Point of the Mountain Transportation Analysis that's helping the transportation agencies and local governments determine how to achieve the types of walkable communities that Envision Utah has determined that Utahns want. My past experience includes participation in the project that defined the form-based code that American Fork obtained from UTA and adopted for its TOD. That code was developed for Utah TODs in 2013 using funds from a Sustainable Communities grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The firm I worked for at the time did not draft that sample form-based code itself, but we were part of the overall project efforts to define solutions to help cities overcome barriers to developing TODs, town centers, and other walkable neighborhoods. Some additional relevant credentials include my current role as a member of the Board of Directors for the Congress for the New Urbanism, CNU, Utah. CNU brings together planners, urban designers, architects, engineers, and developers to create vibrant, walkable cities, towns, and neighborhoods. I'm also a member of the advisory board for the Metropolitan Research Center for the University of Utah. Thank you for indulging me running through some of my credentials. I do so that you understand where I'm coming from when, as a professional and as a citizen, I express concern about the form-based code and some of the code changes approved by the Planning Commission recently. I am particularly concerned with the request to get rid of rear access garages and alleys. Alleys and rear access garages are a critical element to these types of development. Form-based codes evolved from looking back to development patterns that preceded the automobile and have been refined through the last 3 decades by being implemented throughout the U.S. There are many good examples of successful TODs. There's also a lot of really bad examples out there. The important point that I would want to make is that all the various elements of a form-based code work together. Rear access garages and alleys are a critical element of the successful formula. So there are other issues, but I would say that's my primary concern. So now for my request. Let me clarify that my comments are not intended to be critical of the property owners or the developers or city staff. However, the type of development considered for the TOD is different than what the city has considered and implemented in the past. Also, although individual developers understand what they want for their own properties, they might not fully understand how changes to the city code itself will impact other nearby developments. My request is for you to take a step back and seek to understand the impacts of making the requested changes to the TOD zone. To do this, I would recommend the city consult qualified form-based use consultant to independently assess the requested changes to the TOD's form-based code. Urban planners refer to this process typically as calibrating the code. So let me be clear, I'm not asking you to hire me. This is not the type of work that I personally do. I'm not a code specialist. But I have worked with code specialists, and it's a very specialty niche area that can really benefit the city. So that's really my request for you, is to take a step back and to seek the type of expertise that will make sure that the city does this and it does it the right way. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments at this time? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Appreciate those two comments, really do. And we will move on to the city administrator's report.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Bunker.
I have just a couple comments here. Thanks to the efforts of Josh Walker and the Chamber, the city's met with Kenna Matthews, who's the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of Utah County. And we've discussed and are planning a resource fair on March 28th at 6 p.m. Specifically for any residents of the American Campground development, but it will be open to any others who need information regarding opportunities for assistance with affordable housing. And they have invited other organizations such as Self-Help Housing, Utah County Housing Authority, Provo Housing Authority, and others. And so I just wanted to let you know about that, and we'll be posting more information about that as it comes up. Next, the fire department will be completing some fire hydrant testing throughout the city. And this process will include doing pressure and flow tests on the hydrants. This will take about 8 to 10 weeks to complete. And this is a great analysis that will help us keep our ISO rating, which, as you know, is a 2, and we're one of very few cities who have that in the state. And then finally, our city crews will be working on the parking area on the west side of the amphitheater. They will be removing some of the unconsolidated fill material that has been placed there. They'll recompact the subgrade, install base and asphalt, some curb and gutter improvements, drainage improvements, and then that'll be improved for better parking than it is now. But while we're doing that work, parking there will be unavailable. So just one last thing. Staff, we went out to 1120 North, looked at the project that is occurring there. The north side of the road is existing, although in not very great shape. The south side of that section where the development is, it will be paved in the coming days. We were looking at whether we could have that contractor do that project. We did get a price. It appears that the price is probably more than we would put towards that. So again, city crews will be taking on that project. We will shift all traffic to the south side after they complete their paving. and then tear out the north side so that we can have room to work there. So it'll be a 2-phase project. That's what's probably going to happen to schedule that. So just wanted to report on that.
Thank you, David. All right, we will move on to city council reports. We'll start with council member Christy Hansen.
Need to be taller. Yesterday I met with the Timpanogos Arts Foundation, and we're still looking at some structural things. We'd like to enlarge the board and looking at people who would be interested in serving there, including putting the program directors, if they're interested, onto the board to have a broader base, and looking at some other possible changes in the administration there.
Thank you for that report. Council member Shelton.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate David taking a look at that. I think that'll help out to have that all at least at the same age of asphalt as we look going forward. Had the opportunity to attend the dispatch meeting this last week. They're getting ready to prepare for their final budget. There is a little bit of disagreement or discussion, might be a better word, about fees, and I'm of the opinion that we should keep our fee status the same versus a reduction, because there's a lot of infrastructure we need to put in place to ensure we get the right type of equipment to work for our 911 dispatching on our fire channel. And so happy to talk about that with any of you on that side of things, but not an increase. It's just keeping the funding exactly the same as we have had it. But I think public safety is the #1 priority for us to look at, and seeing what happened this last year, we really need to invest in that infrastructure as a board. So that'll be coming up, and I'll bring back those final numbers and let you know where those land out at. But I think for our budgeting process, we should see no increase on that side of things. Also had the opportunity to attend Spanish Forks Chamber of Commerce meeting. It was kind of unique to be able to go down there. I was there professionally, but was able to meet with Spanish Forks Mayor and the Administrator Seth, and just want to report they were great to see me down there, and it's just like seeing good old friends. They are very complimentary of what we're doing up here and the work that we're doing, and I thought that would be nice to pass on, and they really enjoy the working relationship that many of us have with them down there. Had the opportunity to attend Mayor Hadfield's funeral, and that was a great celebration of life that I really enjoyed being able to participate in, and I really enjoyed how each of his kids shared a story about him, and I thought maybe tonight in honor of him I'd share the one that stuck out in my mind. Being over the Steel Days this last year, it was very important to him that he got his Model A vehicle restored and finished and in that parade, and his daughter later told me it was one of his major 3 things to do before he passed on. And I remember I get up early sometimes and get to work to get things done, and I was already down in my office in Orem, and it was about 8 o'clock, and I got a call from Laurel saying the mayor wanted to meet with me right away. And I said, well, I'm kind of at work right now. I'm not so sure I can pull away. Can we do this over the phone? And she said, hold on. And she asked him and came back, says, no, he says it needs to be in person. So I thought it was pretty important. Dropped everything and jotted over here, minding the speed limit, of course, and met with Mayor Hadfield, and he sat down and he just said, I want to make sure we got everything ready for this parade that's going to happen, and that, everything's working out with the Model A vehicles and stuff of that nature. And I just had a time to step back and reflecting on that, how important it is to help people be able to reach their dreams and their ambitions. And just glad I had a small part in that, helping that become a reality for him. As far as the lesson learned from Mayor Hadfield, I think that I would probably put a toothbrush in bronze and give it to him if he was still here with us. That was a saying he always had with us, is that if you could go home at night and brush your teeth and look yourself in the mirror and feel good with the votes and decisions you made, then that's all that matters. And really appreciate that advice over the years. So miss him greatly. Wonderful man, did a lot for the city, but it was a wonderful funeral. I really appreciate the city staff and all the resources that went into honoring him. So that's all, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you for that report. Councilmember Barnes.
After that excellent report, I don't think I dare report on anything other than to say ditto on the funeral stuff, and let the record show I actually had nothing to report in this meeting, and so I didn't report anything. I've been doing a lot of little things, but nothing worth reporting tonight.
Thanks for that. Councilmember Carroll.
Well, I don't know how you decide what's worth reporting. I did want to report that on February 28th, which was a little less than 2 weeks ago, we had our inaugural Still Days meeting with all of our volunteers, and it went really well, and we had a good reception. And I feel like we're just building on what the foundation that was handed over from the Still Days committee before, and it's just making it so smooth, and the chamber's doing a great job. They're working very hard. On top of that, let's see, March 1st, I went to the Chamber of Commerce board meeting where they discussed a couple of different things. They are starting a strategic planning committee so they can have a strategic plan for their chamber, as well as they're planning their annual golf tournament, which will be on May 25th. And I'm not a big golfer, but they're planning some really neat things, so it'll be interesting. I was able to go to the Tri-Chamber lunch, and most of you, I think, know that the Chambers of American Fork, Pleasant Grove, and Linden will get together once a quarter. And I don't know if they have a speaker every time, but this time they had a speaker, and he talked about a book that he had written. But I thought it was a great opportunity for members that were of all those chambers to network with other people in the other chambers. And lastly, I was able to go to a ribbon cutting for a new business, and it was called Renew and Redo. It's right just a couple of streets over from here, and Amy is the owner, and she takes old furniture and redoes it and sells it, and it's a really fun store to go into. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. I also attended that ribbon cutting, and it was it just taught me one thing: you don't throw anything away, because she can make, as far as woodwork, furniture items, things that you might just look like something you'd throw away or give to the DI. She can make them beautiful again. So that was a neat thing, and I always look at those ribbon cuttings as the hopes and dreams of people that have been really, thinking about something for several years, and Amy has now put a lot of risk into this, and she's excited, and you can just feel that, and it was a pleasure to be there along with other members of the council and the chamber. And that's the mayor's report. We'll now move on to the common consent agenda. We have two items, which are approval of the February 20th, 2018 work session minutes and approval of the February 27th, 2018 city council minutes. And we have some noted changes on there. Does everybody see the changes? They got a copy of those? Okay. All right. I've entertained a motion on the common consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the common consent agenda with the changes as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton, for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Taylor. Any discussion? All right, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor. Aye. Thank you. We'll now move on to the action items. I would just like to know, for everybody to know that's here, these packets that we have, this one is 120 pages long. And many of the things that we're going to be talking about, we've talked in a work session, but the city council has them in front of them days in advance and for review and for good reading. Our spouses get to read good books, and we read packet information. So anyway, first item on the action is the ratification of city payments from February 20th, 2018 to March 6th, 2018. And approval of purchase requests over $25,000. Any questions on action item number 1? Have a motion by Councilman Taylor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council Member Christiansen. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you. Action item number 2 is a review and action on the final plat for Temp Professional Industrial Plat A, located in the area of 1375 South, 500 East, in the PI1 Planned Industrial Zone. Adam, I'm just going to have you maybe just report real quickly what the changes are, what maybe the things we've talked to key staff today.
The site plan for this, which is the buildings on the screen that you see, this was approved by Planning Commission last year. What this request is just to subdivide the property. The building on Lot 3 has been constructed, and then Lots 2 and 1 will be constructed. Again, those have already been approved. This is just dividing the property into 3 lots. This is fairly typical for these larger developments. We've seen it many times in the meadows. Usually it's for financing purposes. The Planning Commission reviewed this and recommended approval.
All right. Any other questions for Adam? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final plat for Temp Professional Industrial Plat A and to authorize the mayor and city council to sign the plat and accept the dedications with instructions to the city recorder to withhold recordings of the plat subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the February 21st, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you for that motion, Council Member Carroll. Do I have a second? I'll second. Second by Council Member Taylor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Council Member Christiansen?
Aye.
Council Member Shelton?
Aye.
Council Member Barnes?
Aye.
Council Member Carroll?
Aye.
Council Member Taylor? Aye. Action item number 3 is review and action on a resolution declaring certain items surplus and to be disposed of. We had a public hearing on this prior to that. The items are in front of us. Is there any questions on these? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I was actually looking for the sweeper attachment for the walker mower myself, but I'll make a motion to approve the resolution declaring certain items to be surplus and disposed of.
Thanks for that motion, Councilman Shelton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council Member Barnes. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Council Member Christiansen.
Aye.
Council Member Shelton.
Aye.
Council Member Barnes.
Aye.
Council Member Carroll.
Aye.
Council Member Taylor. Item number 4 is a review and an action on an ordinance adding section 1.22 of the city code related to record access and management. An item we had in our last work session. That's the biggest portion of this 120-page document of this packet. Any items of concern, discussion concerning this?
Just, I think, one quick comment. This is a totally new section. Is that correct? Because it says adding section. And I just think we need to note that this is totally new from here on out. And I think that's important.
Okay.
Mayor, I move to adopt the ordinance adding section 1.22 of the city code relating to records, access, and management.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Taylor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council Member Christiansen. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Council Member Christiansen.
Aye.
Council Member Shelton.
Aye.
Council Member Barnes.
Aye.
Council Member Carroll.
Aye.
Council Member Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, our final action tonight, final action item is a review and action on an ordinance creating Chapter 17.15 of the American Fork City Code, providing restrictions and regulations for lift stations and force mains. Again, another one of item that we had quite a lengthy discussion in our work session. Is there any additional questions that this body has?
Same comment. This is also totally new. We've not had anything related to this in the past. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is I just think it's important so that in the future people know these changes have been done. So when they come back and say, nobody ever told me, you've never required it before, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's important that we make a little emphasis sometimes when we're making totally new, for lack of a better word, policies.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance relating to lift stations and force mains as presented by staff.
Okay, thank you for that motion, Councilmember Shelton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Barnes. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll. Aye. Councilmember Taylor. Aye. All right, action item number 7 is adjournment. All in favor say aye.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, motion. I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I know there's a Jazz game tonight.
Because it's so early, nobody's used to an adjournment this early.
I've got a motion by Councilmember Shelton and a second by Councilmember Taylor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We stand adjourned.